Do you add that other person, the new person?
One second. Let me check. Okay, I see Shravani. Yeah, Shravani, Shravani, you're on call, right? Mute your microphone again. Okay, I only see for. Thought I saw Shravani also. Kevin, are you on the call?
He's not on the call. Really, Mark?
I'm going to mute your speaker also. Is it mute?
He's muted. Yeah.
See, I can hear it. Where am I hearing it from? Did I just say? Mute your speaker.
The speaker's muted.
Microphone, speaker. Speaker. All right. Let me see if Kevin can join.
You're skipping dinner, okay? Because we're directly eating dinner. That's all.
That makes sense. Hey, Kevin.
Hello?
Yeah, Kevin. Are you joining the call?
What?
Are you joining the call?
Oh, I forgot about it. Thanks for calling me to remind me.
All
I'll
right.
be up soon.
Cool. Thank you, man.
This is so sweet.
All right, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, that's
Okay, cool. All right, let me share my screen and we'll get started. Okay, go ahead, log into your account. Now, what I want to do is I'll probably review this in a little more detail once Kevin joins. But at a high level, what we want to do is the two key topics, actually three, right? So we have some context to this. So we'll look at some of this as well in the company settings. Okay, so this is your organizational setup. So you're setting up the, when I say org, this is for a company, right? So this could be for a bank or a restaurant or any company, whichever company that you'll be working for. So you're setting up the organization. So that's what it is. And then we are setting up various users inside that. And finally, for each of these users, you're granting them access to various applications and records. As you can see, together, these are 23% of the total exam weightage. So it's very significant. And even if you're not taking the exam, these are fundamental, right? So even if you're not managing this, it's good to be aware of what these are. So that's what we'll cover today. All right. So go ahead and log into your application. And first, what we'll do is let's go to setup. Okay, is everybody logged into their application?
You can go ahead. I'll catch up.
All right. Hi, Kevin.
Hi.
Okay, everybody else is on?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Okay, so first what I want you to do is we'll cover the first topic, which is setting up the company, right? So initially when you create an account, there is some default information. You created an account in the sense you set it up an account for a company, right? Okay, all right, guys. So can everybody type the word company here under your quick search? Now, this is called quick search. What is this called?
Is it like universal search?
Pretty close. Global.
Global search.
All right, this is global search. This is quick find or quick search. Quick find, right? What is this called, Jyotsna? These 9 little dots.
App launcher.
App launcher. What is this cloud?
Sales cloud.
That's
Is it just decorative?
It's a logo, right?
Salesforce.
So if you're working for Bank of America, then it would say Bank of America here, right? So we can change the logo also. We can do that in a bit. Okay. All right. So Kevin, as you were joining, right, we were talking about the admin certification. So
Okay.
the first 3 topics together are crucial. They are foundational. So we'll cover that over the next 2-3 days.
Okay.
All right. So we'll go to the organizational setup. That's what we'll cover first. So this is where you can control what your fiscal year is, your business hours, your currency, and so forth. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're talking about 23% of the syllabus, right? We're covering 23% of the syllabus. We'll go through some of the details, and then I'll have some homework assigned for you guys. Okay. All right. So is everybody on setup? Yeah. And then go ahead and type company. Right. So as you can see here, there's an entire section around company settings. There's a little bit on calendars, right? We'll come back to that. And then this is the overall company settings, right? So just take a second to read all the different categories. We'll cover some of these in a second.
Muted.
Okay. All right. So is everybody on the business hours? So first take a look at the default business hours. Just click on it, and you can see that, okay, it's 24/7 basically, right? And then if you have any holidays, you can add or remove them, right? Now every record, you will notice every record in Salesforce has 4 fields. What are the 4 fields? Created by, created date. Date includes date and time. Last modified by, and last modified date and time. Okay, so that's crucial. This helps you track, who created it. It helps with ownership. It helps with, who modified records. Obviously, if you, have $500 in your bank account and you withdraw 100, that's your last transaction, then that will say, okay, hey, you withdrew on this such and such day. So that's a way to keep track. That's called audit trail. Okay, so that's part of audit trail. We'll go through that in a bit. Okay, so business hours. So instead of modifying the default, what you want to do is, let's see if you can clone it. So I'm going to go back to business hours, and let's create new business hours, right? So I'm going to call this, let's say this is a COVID call center. Okay, so I'm gonna make it active, and you can select what time zone it belongs to, right? So that's easy. And then what you can do is, instead of 24 hours, you can take out the 24 hours and you can decide what days you want to have access. So let's say Saturday and Sunday you don't want to do business, you can simply delete this. Okay, if you delete it, you'll simply say hour, minute, minute. I'm going to do the same thing with Saturday. And for the other days, I want to set it to 8 a.m. Right? So let's see, 08 00.
Oh, it has to be 0.
Yeah, and then so let's say 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Okay, you can copy paste this if you want. Now, what are some uses of the business hours? Like, because this is not a website, right? So your customers are not going to know. Why do you need this? Any ideas?
For people to see your availability, it will also update the calendar.
Okay, update the calendar, but also, see, let's say you are a call center business, right? You don't want your employees, it should be PM obviously, right? You don't want your employees to access the Salesforce application outside of the business hours if you want to restrict them, right? If you are a call center for a bank, right? You want to be careful about who accesses your application. Even if they're employees, you want to set up controls, right? So that's what it is. So you can use this as a basis to control. And if you want to add some holidays, you can add holidays. Did you guys add some holidays? Now I don't have active holidays here, so we'll have to go back and see where the holidays are. So anybody has any suggestions on where the holidays are? How do I add holidays? So I can either create a new holiday here, or there's a holiday tab right here. Are you in your business hours?
Yeah, where are you?
See, guys, if see, first what you do is go to company, go to business hours, and whatever you created. I'm creating a COVID call center, so I click on it, and I can see the working days and times, right? I selected 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
It doesn't
right?
give me an option for holidays.
So open it first. Open the COVID call center. Okay. And then go to holidays. And so if you click on add or remove holidays, here I don't have any holidays, but I can create a new holiday. Right now, if you notice, if it switches directly here, because what you're essentially doing is you're setting up holidays, right? So here I can say maybe Christmas, okay? Or maybe Christmas is a common holiday. You can have a company founders day or something like that, right? So Christmas, I can. So I can set up a holiday. Sometimes if you want to, like, let's say it's an election day and you want to just give a holiday for part of the day, you can do it. Okay. And you can say it's a recurring holiday and it happens yearly. Or let's say a holiday at the end of the month or end of the week, whatever you have. Or maybe your company works 4 days a week or 5 days a week. So you can control it, as you can see here, very, very precisely. So you can say, hey, it's daily, weekly. If it's weekly, you say what day of the week you have holidays. Right? So things like that. So you can essentially control how this works. Right? If it's monthly, you can say, okay, hey, it happens on the first of the month or the date and so forth. Right? Okay, are you guys good?
Yep.
And if
Yep.
it is yearly, you can indicate when it starts and you can also either say no end date or specify an end date. Okay, Shobha, what does this red line mean?
It's like compulsory.
Correct, it's a required field. Okay, let's go ahead and save. Now you have holidays. Or did it save? Not seeing it here. Let me click on holidays. I have holiday, and let me go to business hours. See, Christmas is already added. Right? So if I added it by mistake, I don't want it anymore, I can remove. Add, remove. Are you guys good? All right. Now we talked about business hours. Let's look at the fiscal year, right? So again, I'm going into company settings. For some reason, it is back to, it is not in Lightning. I'm going to switch back to Lightning. Okay. All right. Go ahead, save and move on to the next thing. Again, here what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to setup in Lightning mode. As you saw, even though the business hours was using Lightning, holidays were using Classic. So, you know, they have not fully transitioned to Lightning. That's why they continue to offer both. Okay, so we are talking about changing the company settings. Now I'm gonna not do every little change of the company. Instead, that will be your assignment. I want you to try and do it. So we already did homework. Sorry, we already did business hours and holidays. Let's take care of our fiscal year. So Kevin, what's a fiscal year?
That's what portion of the year the company is doing business.
Right. So, you know, basically every company works the whole year, but for taxation purposes, for accounting purposes and so forth, you indicate, okay, hey, we work from January to December or April to March and so forth. Right. So this is my starting, right? And the fiscal year end is based on the ending of the month. So you can indicate, you know, what makes sense for you, right? So there are some implications. So right now we are not worried about forecasting, but I want you to take a minute to read these instructions. Go ahead. And there's also the concept of a standard year, standard fiscal year versus a custom fiscal year.
For companies that are websites that don't need to be updated,
yeah,
do they just say their fiscal year is 1 month, and then can they just say that in order to avoid all taxes?
Just 1 month? No, your year is full year, right? You may be operating and making money only in 1 month of the year. That's different, right? Now, it also affects forecasting. That's what it says here, right?
So Halloween companies, like the stores that buy out the big like shopping centers for Halloween, those are a smaller fiscal year?
No, everybody has same 12 months. You're just saying when the year starts and when the year ends for you for accounting purposes. Okay, all right. Now, if your forecast period is set to quarterly, we look at forecasting later. So changing the fiscal year's start month will basically affect your forecasting, obviously, right? Because you're trying to do forecasting based on how this is set up, right? So if you change one, you have to make sure you align forecasting year and the fiscal year, right? Okay, so for the time being, I'm going to leave it at January, but if you want, you can change it to April as well. So if your year starts in April, when does it end?
In April.
March.
It ends in March. Year starts in January, it doesn't end in January, it ends in December, right? So that's what it is. So I'm not going to change it for now, but you can customize it as well as you saw. Okay, all right, let me go back to company settings. Okay, all right, so then let's go ahead and click on company information. Can you guys click on company information, please? Okay, now, you know, sometimes you transition to a different organization or your company buys a different software and so forth. So if you click on deactivate, that's it. Nobody else will be able to use, including you after some time, will be able to use it. None of the end users will be able to use it. You are an administrator right now, so you can reactivate as well. Okay, now there are several other aspects here that you will see. Okay, now user licenses. There are 2 Salesforce user licenses here. These are the different license, means basically a permission to use something, right? So here you can have the 2 different types of users. And then there are all these other elements. Okay, so partner communities, customer communities, and so forth. So right now you don't have to worry about those, but just understand that there are different types of licenses. Okay, all right. So if you want to change, let's say, the currency, all right, you can also have divisions. So a company can have, let's say, for example, Tesla, right? So Tesla has cars, it has solar panels, batteries, so they can make 3 different divisions. All right, so this is your contact information for your company. You can have additional details. Then you can also indicate what is the language and the time zone for your company as the default. So that means anytime you create a user, any transaction you do, that's what the default language and time zone handle. Okay. All right, so far does it make sense? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not going to make any changes for now. All right, so you have language settings. You can indicate which languages are available for your customers. Okay, so that's what these are, all the different languages. I think it's 10 or 11 languages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12. Okay, they keep adding more, so that's good. 13, 14, 15, 16, 18. There are 18 languages, right? Now that doesn't mean every module is available in 18 languages. This base module is available in 18 languages. Like for example, if you're looking for Einstein Analytics, or if you're looking for Health Cloud and any advanced application, that may not be available in all languages just yet. Okay, all right. So the last piece is my domain. We'll come back to this domain. Now, domain is helpful if you are setting up a customer website or a partner website. So if you're trying to set up a website, you need to have a domain, and that way people can access this information. Even people who don't have access to Salesforce can access this, right? So that's how, like for example, if you go to tesla.com, you are accessing their external facing website, and then behind the scenes it's Salesforce. Right? Same thing if you go to Bank of America for some information, that information is all an external website, but it connects back to your company's customer relationship management solution. Okay, so that's the company settings. All right, so now later on, you can go back and look at more details here. You already know about searching, set up searches, and so forth. We'll come back to that. Home page, you guys know what a home page is, right? So if you go to the customer application, this is your home page, and you can change the layout. This is the navigation. We'll come back to the home page layout. So what I want you to do is figure out how you'll modify the home page. Okay. So that's one of the pieces for your exam as well. Okay. Let's go to the user for now. Okay, what I want you to do is, does everybody have a second email address they can access? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So what I want you to do is, as an administrator, go ahead and add a new user. Okay, so you are in setup, go to users. Okay, and click search for user. Okay, if you search for user, again, you see all of these key features of functionality here, right? So let's start with the user itself. And right now what I have is, like I said, you have 2 Salesforce licenses. One you are using. So in my case, this is me. right? Can you log in here and check where you are? Where are you, Abhiram? Did you see yourself?
Yeah.
Can everybody see their own account? Right? Now I want you to create a new user, okay? And then make them a Salesforce user. So for now, I'll go ahead and create, let me delete this. Okay, I can inactivate this user. Let me inactivate this user. Okay, actually, let's see, I can freeze this person. Freeze means they'll not be able to temporarily access this application. Sometimes there's an audit, or sometimes, you know, one of the team members goes on vacation. You don't want anybody accessing their account, right? So you can freeze and unfreeze accounts. You can reset passwords. Because you're an administrator, you can reset the password. Okay. You can also share their data to somebody else. Okay, so these are all the different ways you can control this. Let me edit. Is everybody creating an account?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, create an account. Cannot deactivate an account who's receiving cases or notifications.
Do I have to fill out all this other information or just the red stuff?
Okay, so let me. Okay, so yeah, for now, you know, just the required fields, you can fill out just the required fields. A couple of things that are important, right? So for the profile, what you want to do is, right now I already use 2 profiles, right? So if you see here, I use 2 profiles. So if you look at Aditi's profile, it says user license is Salesforce. So make sure you select user license of Salesforce. Okay. Because I only have, this is a free account, so I only have 2 licenses. I cannot see I cannot use Salesforce here, but you guys should be able to use Salesforce license. So if you make sure you select Salesforce license.
I don't think I have Salesforce license as an option.
Can you check?
I think I've made another Salesforce one.
You already did? Okay, cool. How about the rest of you? Are you able to see Salesforce license here?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So that means you have a second account. So create an account, give a different email address. That way, when you create an account, they'll get a welcome email. Okay, so the reason we want to do that is we want to learn how to control access, right? If you create a record, can they see it? If you are their manager, can you see their data? If you are in sales and they are in service, can you prevent one another, like, you know, users seeing each other's data? Users seeing applications that are relevant for them and not other applications, right? So you can control access, just like in a physical, you know, organization where you cannot open up an accounting file or a HR file if you're in IT. So similarly here, you can control access. Right? So go ahead and fill out these forms. So make sure you select marketing user, knowledge user, service cloud user for this person. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll open up the account that I have already. Okay, so this is the kind of information you want to fill out. Okay, you can give them any title. I'm just saying a customer service person. Make sure you select a user license. You can select anything here or just leave it, you know, pick something. This is the required field role. Okay, now profile. Let's talk about this for a second. Now, some of this is theory, but you want to start understanding what some of these terms mean, right? So let me just use this as a quick example to show. Actually, this is a good. Okay, so this gives you an idea. Organization access means, you know, you're basically saying, okay, hey, who can have access to my company's Salesforce application, right? You can control using login hours and IP addresses. We'll talk about that in a second. Then you have profiles. So profile controls, you know, whether you are a salesperson, you will have access to sales apps. If you're a service person, you'll have service apps. Marketing person will have marketing apps and so forth, right? But then question is, do you see your data or do you see somebody else's data? Right? Do you see, data that other created? Can you edit that? Can you modify that? All that is part of the record access. Okay, so think of object as a tab. Organization is the complete organization, right? So you have various tabs like accounts, contacts, opportunities, leads, campaigns. These are all different objects, right? Object is the behind the scenes and tab is in front of you. Record is an individual record, right? So if you go here, for example, if I go to opportunities, how many records do I see here?
4.
4 records, right? So that's what it means. So what you are exploring here is how can I control access so that I can only see my records. So right now here I can see not only my records, but I can also see all records, right? Because I'm an administrator, I can see everything. But why don't you create a person so you can control access to them? Okay, so did everybody create a person? Make sure you check these boxes. It should be active, marketing, knowledge user, service cloud. Okay, you can also mark check box on the chat user. Okay, mobile user, so that way they can access this application on their mobile phones. All right, did everybody get this? Okay, cool. Yeah, if you want to, you can enter their address and so forth. Okay, now what you can do is you can click on this, you can generate a password and notify them. So if you select that, what happens is at the very bottom, do you guys see that? So if you select this, an email goes out to them. So make sure you entered any valid email address, otherwise it won't go there. Okay. All right, do you guys see that? Let me save this. Okay, so right now I don't want to change my password because this account is already there, but I did make a change in terms of chat and mobile and others, right? So I can go ahead and save. Okay, did you guys save it? Okay, if you saved it, now you should be able to see and it should be marked as active. Okay, can you guys save your record and tell me if you see a new record now? You see a new record, is it marked, right? So this record should have a role and a profile. So profile controls which tab you see. Record controls which records you see. Does that make sense? So role controls records and profile controls tabs. Are you guys good with that? Yeah. Now alias is basically, think of it as a username. Okay. All right. So now what you can do is for an existing user, I can go in and I can change their password. I can reset their password so they'll immediately get a communication, and I can freeze. When I freeze, what am I doing? Abhira, what am I doing when I freeze?
You're disabling an account, right?
You're temporarily freezing or stopping them from logging in. Okay, and then you can freeze and you can unfreeze. So when you freeze, they cannot log in, even if they enter the correct password.
Is there something more permanent than freeze, or is freeze?
Yeah, there is absolutely something more permanent. That's a good question. You can inactivate them.
Okay.
Okay.
So if someone goes on a break, you freeze them.
Correct. And if somebody leaves, you inactivate them.
Or leave.
Exactly. But it's not a good idea to delete the record. Then you are losing traces of all their activity. Right? So all the activities that had their name now become, harder to access. Right? Whereas what you can do is if somebody leaves, you just inactivate them, but then assign somebody else as their manager so they can get access to those records. Okay. All right. So you guys are holding up so far. Okay.
I'm seeing something that says you are never able to delete a user, only deactivate them.
Yeah. Now, I think the older versions did allow you to do some of that, but yeah. So it's definitely not a good idea to delete users, even user records like opportunities and contacts and so forth. You just want to inactivate them because you don't want to delete those records unless they are absolutely irrelevant. Okay. All right. So we'll talk about the record access to in a second.
The way everything's all tied together, it might have a lot of serious consequences with domino effects all throughout the company to completely delete somebody.
All right. Okay. So if you look at roles, just go ahead and click on roles for a second. Go ahead and click on roles. And see, this is a hierarchy, right? So if you click on setup roles, you can see, for example, here I can have at the top, I can have the name of the company, then I can have roles, and then I can add additional roles below that. So if you click on CEO, then it gives you all the various records, right? So if I go to sales, Senior Vice President, Sales and Marketing, then I can see, okay, within that I have Vice President of International Sales, Marketing, North America Sales. Right, within North America, I have channel and direct sales, and within channel, I can have different locations or direct sales. I can have East and West, right? So if you remember, I added Aditi to the Western sales team, right? So how do I know that? I can just right click here, duplicate. I'm still in setup, so I can go to users.
SVP stands for?
See, SVP is Senior Vice President. This is the role, right? So she's part of the Western sales team. That means she's somewhere here, right? So if I actually click on this role, I can see who's assigned. So what role did you assign to your user?
COO.
To your user. So you can change the role so you can see where they fall in the hierarchy. Does that make sense?
What does COO stand for?
Chief Operating Officer. Right now, this you can edit this as it says here. So let's say instead of a Chief Operating Officer, you have Chief Information Officer. You can change it. Okay, who they report to and so forth. Right, sometimes you can have, right now this one doesn't have a CIO or a CTO, so you can add those. Right, so does that make sense? So that what it means is this Western sales team, whatever data they create, and the Eastern sales team, both these data sets are now visible to the director. Now this director's data is visible to the Vice President of North America, whose data in turn is visible to the Senior Vice President, whose data in turn is visible to the CEO, whose data in turn is visible to the administrator. So if you're an administrator, you're sitting at the absolute pinnacle of the organization. Okay. Does that make sense? So it's an important responsibility. So you want to, and most companies have teams of at least a couple of administrators, right? But somebody senior who's handling other responsibilities, and then for day-to-day transactions, they bring in somebody relatively junior and handle that. But does it make sense? So this is a system administrator. Okay. Okay. All right. So these are the users. So users have roles and users have profiles. Okay. Now what I want to do is I want to click on a profile. Actually, let me go to profile. So what profile did we give Aditi? Like, for example, in this case, I gave her a profile of an hospital administrator. If I want to change that and change it to a standard user, I can make her a standard user. Okay. And So what profile did you give your users? Can you go back and check and change it to standard user, please? See, I am a system administrator and the user that I added is a standard user. Okay, if you make both of you system administrator, that means let's say you gave this to your friend, they are administrators, they can log in and basically disable your account too, right? So you're giving a master key to more than one person, you want to be mindful of that. Okay, all right, so far are we good?
Yes.
All right, now give me 1 second, let me see. Okay, so let's take a look. Go ahead and type security here. And there are different levels of security. So what I'm looking for specifically is company level security. Give me 1 second. Security settings. Okay, hold
Is
on.
it sharing settings?
Not sharing. I'll tell you what specifically I am looking for.
Profiles and permission sets?
No. Give me 1 second. Okay, network access. Can everybody search for network access? All right, guys, go ahead. Search for network access, please. Okay, did everybody find it? Shobha, Josha,
Yes.
Suzanne?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
You guys found it? Okay, cool. Right, now this is network access, right? So if you think about, let's say you are a company that sells projectors, right? You may have call center people, you may also have field sales people, right? The call center people are going to sit in your building, right? That means you can control who access it by setting up your IP address, right? So think of IP address as even your laptop has an IP address, your home internet has an IP address. So similarly, a building would have a series of IP addresses. They're in sequence, so you can indicate what's your starting IP address and what's your ending IP address. So if your team members are in 4 buildings, so you can indicate, which building they are in. Right, so you can basically restrict access to just that. So that means if they want to access the system, they have to be physically in the office. Okay, so that's what a trusted network access is. Okay, now it is possible for employees to access outside this IP address, but when they try to access, it sends them a security token, just like a one-time password you get from Amazon. Right, so it sends you a password token and you use the token to log in. Okay, that's a trusted IP address. Now remember, for those of you who are taking the test, this is 23% of the syllabus. So you have to try and make sense of it. All right, so the only way to do that is by exploring, poking around, making mistakes. Okay, so this is your network access. Now, the other thing what you would do is, let's say you go to a profile. Okay, go to profiles, and for the user, did everybody give their users a standard user profile? Yeah. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is typically it's a good idea not to mess with the standard user profile. Okay, what I will do is I'll first just open it so you can see what the user profile has and what it controls, right? So we talked about roles and profiles. So Suzanne, what's the difference between a role and a profile?
Role is More of a
I thought of a good way to remember. Match
Mhm.
R with R.
Yeah. Yep. So role is to control records.
yeah.
Okay. So as you can see here, roles control records and profiles control objects. And Jyotsna, what's an object? Can you give me an example of a couple of objects?
Records.
Record is not an object, right? An object can have multiple records.
Oh, no.
Did you say
We worked with
accounts?
several objects yesterday, right?
Yeah. Contacts.
Exactly. Contacts, accounts, these are all tabs. So if you click here, basically you will see hundreds of, these are all tabs. These are all objects, right?
Yeah.
So you can control access. Okay, so that's it. So whether you have access to a tab or not, it depends on your profile. So if you're a salesperson, you have sales application. If you're a call center person, you only have access to the call center application. Does that make sense? So
Okay.
that's a profile. Okay. So a profile, this is the standard profile. Take a look at it. Don't modify it. We'll clone it and we'll modify things. Okay. Now, these are all the objects they have access to, the page layouts. You'll come back to it. So these are all the field level securities they have, custom applications. And then if you scroll down some more, keep going all the way down. What do you see here? Right? And what do you see here? Right? So you can control for this profile. So if we make a profile called call center agent, we can modify that. That's what we'll do. So what we'll do is we'll clone this standard user and we'll modify it and then give that access to Aditi or whoever you created. So and you can also click on users. If you click on view users, it will tell you right now only Aditi has access. Can everybody go to the standard profile? Go to profiles. You know how to go to profiles? Go to setup, profiles, and then go to standard user. So, and then click on view users. Okay, so it tells you that, okay, this is the person who's assigned to the users. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to clone and I want to modify. I don't want to monkey with the standard profile. It's not a good idea to edit it. That way you always have an original copy. Okay, if you want to go back and
standard profile.
What's that?
Standard user?
Oh, standard users profile. See, there are some profiles that are available out of the box. Okay, so what are the standard profile? What are the profiles that are available out of the box? You see here. Go ahead, take a second to read this. You have a standard user. In my organization, this is Aditi, and I am the administrator. Then I can give a bunch of people read access. I have marketing folks. I have people who are managing solutions, people who are managing contracts and so forth. And I can have as many profiles as I want, but these are the standard profiles. Standard means it's available out of the box. Standard object means it's available out of the box, like opportunities, contacts, accounts, these are standard, right? Well, let's say I want to make an object called some accounts, right? So then that is a custom object. Does it make sense? Okay, so let's go ahead and copy this profile. So copying is cloning, right? So make sure you're selecting your standard profile. So which profile did you select? So here you have the name. Make sure you select the standard user profile, which has a Salesforce license. And it tells you if it is a custom profile or not. If custom profile is not checked, what does it mean, Suzanne? Custom profile is not checked. What does it mean?
It's like a standard profile.
It is a standard profile. All right. And you want to say it is rather than like, right? It would be, yeah, we will talk more. Does that make sense? So click on clone. And let's give this. So I'm going to call this, let's say, SBA. call center agent. Okay, so that's the name I'm giving it. This is the name of my code for my company, for example. This is the role. So that way I remember it. And also by looking at it immediately, I know that this is custom. You see this? When I cloned it, it immediately said it's custom, right? Now the standard user profile is still there. How do you know that? You click on profiles. And if you scroll down, you'll still see standard user. But now you also have something called SBX call center agent. So if you click on it, it says this is a custom profile, correct? And of course, you can make a clone of a clone. So first things what I want to do is I want to restrict this person to certain business hours. Okay, so I can click go to the new profile, cool, and then go all the way down and click on edit. All right, now I want to Sunday I don't want this person to access, and then Monday I want this person to access only from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. for example, right? So I can set it up like that. So this person cannot access the application from outside of this window. Does that make sense? So I can restrict it by IP address. I can restrict it by login. I can restrict it by both IP address and login. So there are so many ways you can control it. And there are also some ways in which you can give an exception.
One way to think of it is you're not editing a person, you're editing the group of every person with this one profile.
Correct. Right, so that way, and you can if the person needs a different login hours, you can create a separate profile, or you can give permission sets and so forth. So we can explore that in a bit. All right, so what I did is I gave them access from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and then I can click on save. Okay, so if you scroll down all the way, did everybody make changes? And then
can you repeat where we need to change?
So did you create a profile, Jyotsna?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you create a profile, open the profile and go all the way down. If you go at the very bottom, you should see login hours. Click on edit and change the login hours. Okay, now for those of you who created the login hours, you can click on login IP address, just take a look at it. Okay. And if you want this person to be a programmer, then you can also grant them access to the Apex classes. Okay, and this is Visual Force is for front end, and this is for back end. So Visual Force is JavaScript. You need to pay attention. Visual Force is JavaScript, and Apex is Java. This is JavaScript. This is front end. This is like HTML. Right, and Apex is the backend. So I'm gonna go ahead and grant access to this person. So here you can say which classes this person has access to, right? So I can give them access to a couple of classes. Okay, all right. So for now, don't worry too much about Apex classes, but all I need you to remember is that you can control access. So once you enable a couple, then it opens up a whole set of custom settings that you can set up for this person. But just know that, okay, now you can set these up. Now you also have your password policy. I want everybody to take a second to explore the password policy. If you want to change it, you can edit. Now, so far, I don't have any users for this new profile, correct? If I click on view users, I don't have anybody, right? So what I want to do is I want to add a user, right? I want to add a user, but not a brand new user, but the user that I added sometime back. So do you guys remember who I added sometime back, or do you remember who you added sometime back? Right? And they were part of the standard user, right? So standard Aditi was part of the standard user. I'm going to go ahead and edit this user, right? And instead of a standard user, I'm going to change them to SBX call center agent. So go to the user you created and change the profile to the custom profile. Okay, Jyotsna, were you able to change the login hours?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Now go to the user you created and edit and change their profile from standard user to whatever name you gave for your profile. That means earlier Aditi used to be able to access this application 24/7. Now she can only access between 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific time. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Now go back to your profile, the custom profile. If you click on view users, you should be able to see your new user now. Okay. Make sure you save. Whenever you make changes to your user, you save it.
But what do we want?
What are we doing for your user? We're changing them from standard user to the custom profile. Go to profile on the right hand side, profile on the right hand top corner, and change the profile from standard to whatever custom profile you created. You gave it a FTC, right? Where is that? Yeah, and then save. Okay, all right, guys. So is everybody back on their profile? Okay, so make sure you click on your profile. We'll do some more edits to your profile. Okay, now as a reminder, profile controls which objects they have access to, right? Profile controls which objects they have access to. Like for example, I have all these objects, right? So let's say I don't want Aditi to access campaigns, right? So that's what I want to edit. So I can do that using my profiles. Okay, so let me go to my custom profile. Where's my profile? Let me just refresh and I should be able to see SPX. So these are access to all the custom objects they have. So if I don't want them to access the custom objects anymore, I can go ahead and get rid of those. Okay, so we'll look at that in a second. So go ahead and click on edit. All right, guys, can you click on edit? And if you don't want them to access the custom apps anymore, do any of you have any of the custom apps? Like we created the hospital management system, right? So if I uncheck those, she won't be able to access the hospital management system anymore. Okay. And similarly, you can control, I said I don't want her to see campaigns. So go here, please. Go to campaigns. Did you click on edit?
Yeah, I'm doing one.
Go to profile and do edits. Okay. And then I don't want her to access campaigns. So I can either hide the tab, but they can still see the application. You know, if they click on links, they can still see it. Tab is just here, right? So tab is just here. But if I want to see, let's say campaign members, there's no tab for the campaign members. But if I go to a campaign, I can go to the campaign and I can see who the campaign members are, right? I can still see this information. Not everything needs to have a tab. And from this tab, I can go to either a lead or a contact. So even if I don't have the lead or a contact tab, I can still drill down and, you know, see the information. So if you say hide, it won't show at the tab. But if you say off, that means they cannot access this data anymore. Okay, so that's what this tab settings control. Okay. And so these are all the standard out of the box tabs, right? That means these are all the standard out of the box objects, right? So we have opportunities, we have orders, we have, you know, we have campaigns, cases. So these are out of the box, and anything that's custom, you will see it right here. So for those of you who created the labs and the doctors and so forth, you will see it here. And Jyotsna, I don't think you joined us when we created this, so we'll revisit this. We'll do a new project. Okay, so we can see this. Okay, and then these are some of the administrative privileges that this profile has. So if you want this profile to manage certain things, you can give them access. Okay, and then these are the general user profiles. So you can make this user a lightning user. So make sure this user is a lightning user. That way they can access Lightning as well as Classic. Okay, and if you want them to manage cases and articles, you can grant them access. Okay. Are you doing this, Abhinav? So keep scrolling all the way down and you will see it. Yeah. Okay. Then the next thing, we saw some general user profiles, and then there are some standard object permissions. Okay. Now this is important for you to understand. You see, okay. So this is read, you can read, and this is create is, of course, you can create the records, edit, and delete. Okay. Sometimes, people just call it cred. That's something you want to be aware of, right? So this is for the
Mute.
So what can you do with a record? You can create, read, edit, and delete. Sometimes edit.
RCED, orders RCED.
On that, but cred is a way to now you start. Yeah, cred is also update. That's one way to remember. Update or edit is the same. Okay, and then D is for delete, R is for read, and C is for create. Does that make sense? So this is controlling not the objects, right? Who can create objects? End users can create objects. Administrators can create objects. Developers can create objects. You don't want a bank manager to go and sit down and start creating objects. They'll mess it up, right? So this is for the records. You have to remember that this is not for the objects. This is for the records. So therefore they fall under roles. Okay. This is controlling access to records. Make sense? All right. Now, administrators can view everything and delete everything, modify everything, including delete, right? So you have to be mindful of that. So don't give administrator access just to everybody. Okay. Now, again, everything is broken into custom object permissions and standard object permissions. So these are all the standard objects. So Suzanne, what's the standard object?
Standard is something which is already there, like it's a default thing that we have.
Exactly. Standard is out of the box in Salesforce, right? Whereas custom is what you created. Okay. All right. And each of these is an object. So you're trying to say, okay, hey, for these standard objects, what kind of permissions do I have? Right? So let's say I don't want for example, Aditi to change any of the contracts, right?
Usually I didn't find the custom objects in these. I need to create, or how is it going?
Yeah, so we'll have a session on creating. That's what we did. We created some custom objects, so don't worry about it.
Okay.
So we'll that's a process. That's something we'll learn again. We'll refresh our memory, and we'll do a deep dive. Okay. All right. So similarly, if you want this access to have access to the knowledge base, I'm going to just go ahead and give her access to create, read, and edit, but not delete the knowledge base. Okay, I want her to be able to view all the knowledge bases, not just the ones that she created. So I'll give her view all permission. Okay, so this is a session settings. So I need you guys to understand what a session settings is. Like, for example, if you are logged into your bank account or into your Google, it will say after some time, or even in Salesforce, right? It will say, okay, hey, you are logged out because of inactivity, right? So you can specify depending on, how crucial your application is. You can set it to be 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour, whatever you need, you can set it up, right? Session security, high assurance is basically raise the high assurance to require. Okay, high assurance is two-factor authentication. So what's a two-factor authentication, Suzanne?
Mail ID and password like that.
Millennial password is actually one thing, but second factor of authentication is, see, if you give your email address, right, that's a name, right? First authentication is your password, but sometimes they'll say, okay, hey, I'll send a code to your phone, tell us what the code is, right? So that's a second authentication. Okay, that means you have two forms of identity, right? So if you're traveling international, they say, okay, show me your driver's license, show me your passport. That's a two-factor authentication.
Like if we are logging in from a different system also, sometimes it'll ask you.
Okay. All right, we'll wrap it up in 2 minutes. Okay. Now you can also specify your password privacy policies. So you can say, okay, hey, does the password expire in 10 days, 5 days, whatever you want it to be. You can also indicate how complex your password is. Okay, and number of maximum number of attempts, right? And whether you want to have a password question or not. Of course, this is more of a a quick walkthrough, but I want you guys to spend some time, look at these in a little more detail. Okay, so you get some more context to this. So that's about the profile. Let's take a second to look at the roles. Okay, all right, can everybody click on roles for a second? Okay, we'll wrap it up in a minute. Now we saw roles here, right? So you can design your roles. So just want you to be aware of the various roles, and the information rolls up. That's another way to remember too. So one, roles control roll up of information, like a manager can see a subordinate's information and the senior manager can see the manager's information, right? And also when we say information, we are talking about records. Okay, and when we say profiles, we are talking about what kind of applications are they able to view, what kind of tabs they are able to view. Okay, all right, so that's what it is. Now permission sets we'll explore a little more, but just know that permission sets and permission set groups are ways for you to bypass a profile. So let's say all 6 of us are on the same profile standard user, but I can grant somebody additional permissions by using the permission set. Okay, so that means they can access an additional application or they can access an additional piece of functionality. Okay, so we are at 9:08. Before I end, what I want everybody to do is a set of 10 videos. I want you guys to watch 5 videos to tomorrow and the rest 5 the day after. Okay, so what you do is just go to YouTube. Can everybody do it now so that you can bookmark it? Go to YouTube, please. This is absolutely crucial. I want everybody to go to YouTube and type this phrase, Salesforce who sees what? These are short videos, 3 to 6 minutes, and they talk about various aspects. Okay, so as you can see here, they talk about permission sets, record types, and we'll go through each of these. You don't have to rush, but you absolutely, for those of you who are taking the exam, you should watch it at least 3 times and try it out as you watch. Okay. Okay. The others, you should at least have a general sense of, you should understand, at the minimum, you should understand this slide. Does that make sense? We talked a little bit about this, right? By controlling IP addresses and logins and passwords, hours, and so forth. We talked about profiles and hierarchy. We haven't done field level security. We'll do that. Okay. So let's say there are bills. Let's say the bills also go to a customer service person and you don't want them to see the discounts, or maybe it goes to legal department who just want to make sure that the contract is right, but you don't want them to see the addresses and phone numbers of the customers, right? So you can control, even if they have access to the record, they have access to the application, to Salesforce org, they have access to the object, like let's say contracts or bills or orders, quotes, right? Let's talk about quotes, right? So in order to access quotes of Salesforce, first you need Salesforce access. So that's the org access. Then you access codes and opportunities, and then this dictates whether you access your records, other people's records. Can you edit them, modify them? Can you create, delete, and so forth? That's the role hierarchy. And then within the code, can you see certain fields like pricing and discounts and so forth, right? So you can control it to a very fine level. So you have to remember that Access is a many layered thing. Does that make sense? So was everybody able to find this video series?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So like I said, these are 9 videos. Watch 5 tomorrow and the 5 the day after. That's what we'll focus on. I want to make sure we get a decent handle on it for the next 2 days. And this is, like you saw, 23% of the syllabus. Okay. Now, before the class ends, like always, I want everybody to send me snapshots so we can share it to the community, to the group here. All right. Go ahead, guys. Can everybody just take a screenshot of the trailhead and send it? Jyotsna, were you able to start Trailhead a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, then go ahead, send a screenshot. So I'm sharing my screenshot so you know. All right, Kevin is the leader here. He's got 20,000 points. I have about 6,000 points. Okay. All right. Jyotsna shared hers. All right. I cannot see anything, Jyotsna. I don't think the screenshot had any information yet. So make sure that once it shows up, then show me the points. Okay, come on, guys. I'm waiting. Shobha, Suzanne, Kevin.
I said mine.
Yesterday I didn't do anything on Trailhead.
Yeah, you have to do. That's the point of sharing, Shobha. So
Yeah.
make sure you do it every day. Every day you have to try to get 200 points more if possible. Suzanne, I don't think the points changed.
No, it changed.
I can look it up right here. Right? You can go to the history. And yesterday, how many? Okay, yeah. Actually, yeah, I'm wrong. She doubled her points. So from 1,125, she went all the way to 2,025. So she literally did like 100 points. So that's pretty good. Okay, who else? Okay, Jyotsna has started her journey as well. This is Kevin with the 40,000 points. Awesome, Kevin. 50 batches. That's great, man.
Thanks.
Fantastic.
Expeditioner.
That's great. All right. Who else? Jyotsna, did you send?
Actually, I'm unable to send it. I'll try to send the picture.
Yeah, take a picture and send it. Okay. All right, Suzanne, these recordings are only available for 30 days. Can you absolutely make sure you load all these recordings into the Firebolt account?
Yeah.
Okay, your day started, right? Get some coffee and please take care of this. Okay. All right, and make them public. They don't have to be private.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay. All right, everybody. Great job, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
Okay. Take
Thanks
care.
for calling me.
Of course, man. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.